What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, talk about other factors out there, and what you should be watching for as time goes on. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. We deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. We deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends in just 3 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with our market. So, looking at the way the market is moving, SPY has this tough resistance near the 609 area. Every time we get very close to 609, we do tend to reject. So 608 to 609 to be a little bit more precise. But the thing is, despite the fact that we get those little rejection like moves, we're also getting bought back up near 606. So the market remains in this range for now, and we'll be watching to see which way we end up breaking if that ends up happening. But for now, make sure you watch these levels, and I'll talk more about them in just a couple of minutes. I first want to talk about this. So tomorrow is going to be Monday, December 9th, 2024. At 10 o'clock a.m., we have wholesale inventories data. At 11 a.m., we have consumer inflationary expectations. And then at 11:30 a.m., we have the 3 and 6 month bill auctions. So all this data could cause a little bit of volatility here and there, but for the most part, I would say it's more minor. I'm not really expecting anything too crazy because of that. Now, in essence, just know this: as far as the market is going to move, it's going to be more dictated by algorithms and other factors like that. I don't think this data is going to be as impactful for now. So just keep that in mind. I also want to mention that tomorrow is going to be Monday, so we don't really have too many significant earnings coming out. We do have Oracle, which could be a bit more impactful for certain sectors. But besides that, there's not really much. For Tuesday, we have AutoZone announcing earnings, a lot of retail, not to mention like GameStop. For Wednesday, we have Macy's and then Adobe. And then for Thursday, we have Costco and a couple of more. So just know that the majority of earnings are quite minor. There's a lot of retail coming out for the week, but there's a couple of them that could be a bit more impactful, such as like Oracle and Costco. We'll have to see how that goes. Besides that, the market is still quite neutral. And the reason why it became more neutral is because if you look at the way the market's moving, we're just kind of like range bound on SPY. We're kind of stuck in the middle. So we're waiting to see if we get a big shift. And the market's also very mixed. We're starting to see some sectors like finance that are slowing a little bit, but then some tech stocks remain very, very strong. So the market is still, once again, in the middle. Now, despite that, if you look at just the S&P 500, we're still very elevated compared to where we were beforehand. That's why momentum is still very bullish. What that means is that we're still well above our 125 daily moving average, and the market's very high. It's near all-time highs. That's why the momentum is still at extreme greed. Now, for other factors, we have the puts and call option ratio. Now, what's happening on the 5-day average is we're starting to see a little bit less call. We're seeing a little bit less call buying. We are seeing this going up just slightly. But overall, despite that slight little like shift, the overall trend is still showing that the majority of positions are now just like people going long in the market. And we're seeing puts continually being closed, which could signify, a short squeeze that's been continuing. Now, the issue is every time the ratio is at these lows, it does tend to bounce a bit, which does tend to signify the market could top. So it's a possibility. This could be an indicator that suggests that there could be some downside coming to the markets, but there's no confirmation on the chart yet. And just always remember, chart is king. That still trumps this. And although this is like an indicator that could turn us a little bit more bearish, there's no sign of the market turning bearish yet. So we'll see. This sometimes could be delayed, so the reaction may take like many weeks to happen. We'll have to see about that as well. The VIX is very neutral. It's been dipping a bit. It's still holding its key supports, so we're waiting to see. So be very, very patient with the VIX. Anyways, let's focus on the charts now, because remember, the charts are going to be king in the market like this. So like I said before, every time SPY is hitting 608 to 609, we just straight up reject. And every time we hit the 606 area, we just keep on getting bought back up. So we're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Now, hypothetically, okay, if there's a good piece of news and SPY rockets and we break past 609, this thing could easily go up to about 611. That's going to be my target if we break past 609. I think 611 is coming. Now, if the opposite happens and SPY ends up dipping, I think that 606 is going to be the main support because our green 20 EMA, this is going to be uptrending, and this is going to be approaching 606. So that's going to be the main support. If we lose 606, I think we dump down right here to fill this gap near 604. So just keep that in mind. So what is my prediction of SPY? How do I think this is going to move? In my opinion, it's very simple. I think that we're in a range right now, so we just have to assume the range is going to be respected for some time before we see a much bigger move. Meaning, because we grabbed liquidity right over here, this is like a liquidity grab right here with a slight divergence. And because we're starting to slow down here, I would anticipate that this might dip a little bit and grab some liquidity around 606. So expect a small dip upon open for SPY, and then we'll have to see if this thing could break again to new all-time highs from there, or if we end up losing support. And the reason I'm saying that is because of this. So when you look at SPY, look at the trend. This thing was just uptrending, 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 uptrending over and over and over again. But now notice that the rate at which it's going up is now slowing down. So it's becoming more like sideways right here because that's a tough resistance we're at, which is why I anticipate this is going to dip a little bit. And the trend right now is like we dip here, we get back up, we dip, go back up. That's all we're doing. So I think tomorrow we dip right down to about the 606 area. And we'll have to see if that holds or not. If it doesn't hold, we come down to fill the gap below. But if it does hold, we could bounce off that and just continue to trade in this range. That's my view of SPY. Some range bound price action. Look for a small dip upon open. And if we lose this 20 EMA, then look for that gap fill all the way down there. That's our game plan. Remember, you have a bullish and bearish case, but for now, the market is just trading sideways. So just keep that in mind. Now, ES has the same thing going on, right? The closer we get to about the 6,100 zone, give or take about 10 points above or below, we tend to reject off of that. But then around that 60, 80 area, we tend to get bought back up. So like right here on Wednesday, we got bought back up from there. Thursday, we're holding support. Even on Friday, we held the 60, 80 area. So we're stuck in between these levels going back and forth and back and forth. I think we could dip a little bit upon open closer to about 6,084. We'll have to see if we get a bounce or not. If we lose support right there, we're looking for essentially 6,077, which could lead to a much bigger move to the downside. However, I think that overall, we're completely stuck in a range, just like SPY. And I think that this could dip a little bit back down to our 20 EMA for 6,080, but then we might bounce off of that because we're holding support so far. Just like SPY, notice that we're very vertical. We used to be very vertical, pushing very, very hard. Now we're trading a little bit more sideways. So we're slowing down right over here. So this could dip a little bit more if we don't hold our 20 EMA. There might be a small dip coming. So we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For the QQQ, this is more bullish than SPY. It's continuing to make higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. It even pushed on Friday. So I'm not seeing a sign of rejection quite yet. At the current rate we're going, if we break the high from Friday at 526.5, 528 is going to be our next target. If we can't break that and we come short, we're going to be looking at support right over here around 525. If that does not hold, I think we come back down to about 523.5. That's where the previous support becoming resistance or previous resistance becoming support happens to be. If 523.5 fails us, I'm looking for 520 as our potential targets, and then 517. I don't think it's going to dip that low, but I presume that what's going to happen is we're going to attempt to push a little bit higher. We'll have to see if we could get back above 528 or not. If we come short of 528, this could turn back down. So just keep that in mind. And typically what happens is you pop a bit, then you come back down, and you grab liquidity right over here, which is where the breakout happened to be. So I think what's going to happen is we push a little bit upon open for the 528 resistance. We might not hold that. There could be a small dip coming with SPY to retest the 523.6 to 523.8 area, like right down here. And then we'll see if we bounce off that to continue higher or not. We'll have to wait and see how that ends up going. So it could look like a move like this where we grab liquidity up here and then we just like dip back down to the breakout. Then we'll have to see if we break out higher or if we go back down low. I'll be watching what kind of test we get from there. So that's what I'm seeing for the QQQ for the time being. For NQ, we remain more bullish, making higher highs and higher lows as long as we don't end up losing our main area of support. Just like the QQQ, we could be looking for a move like this where it attempts to grab liquidity. Might come down to the breakout area before it tries to either break out higher, or if it fails, it'll just dip lower. So I'll be watching to see what kind of move we make from here. I'm looking for something very similar as well. For Tesla, it's very strong, very bullish. I expect this to surpass 400 tomorrow, so expect a big push. There's a lot of momentum, good volume coming in, and the chart looks very bullish off this cup and handle like breakout. So look for some more upside on Tesla. Should be pushing for 400 in the morning. It loves to push upon the morning, so we might be looking for a test of 400, and we'll see if we can hold above that or not. If we do hold above that, we're looking for 410 as our next potential target. Overall, just give Tesla some time, and we'll see 400 get surpassed. It looks very, very bullish to me. Bitcoin looks a little bit more bullish. It's riding its 4-hour 20 EMA very nicely. Could retest 99,600 or so before it tries to bounce. As long as we hold above that, we're going to be heading for 102,000. So we're on a nice uptrend. Could be pushing for 102,000. We're doing a great job thus far. For other tickers out there, we have, let me just double check. I think I skipped over Nvda. I'm going to double check this one. Nvidia is going to be looking for a big test. Now, it's possible this could be like an inverse head and shoulders like structure. This could be like our left shoulder. This could be our head, and then this could be like a right shoulder. But the problem is we have to see if we hold our 50 EMA. So we have this support to watch for very close to this support right here. If that holds, this could try to rebound like this if we hold our 20 EMA. However, if we end up doing something that's the opposite, right? If we don't hold our 50 EMA at 141.5, then this will be dipping back down to about 138. So tomorrow, look for a dip to 141.5. It does look a little bit lackluster. We have to see if we hold that support or not. If we don't hold 141.5, I'm expecting us to dip closer to like 138 or so before we finally try to get a bounce. But if we do hold 141.5, then this could bounce from right here. So it all depends on this support right here, which we're about to test. Now, given the inverse head and shoulders, it's possible we're making a move like this where we come all the way down here. So if we get the bounce from here, that's going to cause like a little rebound to 144. But if we don't bounce off 141.5, the 50 EMA, we're going to be dipping to 138, and then we get some kind of bounce like that. So a dip and a bounce is what I'm expecting. But watch, will it be off like the 141.5 area, or will it be closer to 138? I'll be watching to see just to be safe on Nvidia. For Apple, Apple is just completely range bound, but there was one problem with Apple, right? We're not really breaking out in either direction. We're kind of stuck right here. We're stuck between 244 and 242, going back and forth and back and forth. If 242 does not hold, we could be dipping closer to about our 20 EMA. So I'm favoring that we might be dipping to our 20 EMA, very close to about that 241 area before it tries to bounce. Look for a small dip, and we'll see how it kind of goes from there. But just keep that in mind. For other factors out there, we have Netflix. Netflix is looking very bullish, continuing to break out, making higher highs and higher lows. I think there's a good chance we try to go for that 940 target. We're holding support very, very nicely. We could continue to push for 940. We'll have to see if that breaks or not. If we end up losing support around this 925 area, we could be dipping back down closer to about 915. But I think this is favoring upside for 940. There's no sign of rejection quite yet. MSTR is range bound right here. It's starting to consolidate around this area. We're holding above 360 very nicely and also 380, but our resistance is very tough around 400. If 400 breaks, we're looking for essentially 410, and if we lose 392, we're looking for 385. Because we're holding support, I'm favoring that we might slowly uptrend for 410. Then we'll have to see what happens after that. For Celsius or CELH, we are on a very, very nice trend. We're kind of trading sideways here. We could be dipping closer to about this 27 area. We'll have to see if we bounce or not. Look for a small dip as we grab liquidity. So this does typically lead to some downside. Back down to our support at 27.5, and we'll see if we bounce off that or not. But look for a small dip on Celsius. For Supermicro, we are looking more bullish as we're making higher highs and higher lows. Excuse me. I think that the trend looks quite nice. We'll have to see if we can try to hold above 50 or not if that ends up getting tested. So look for 50 to be retested, and we'll see if we reject off that or not to retest 46. I think that we push for 50, then we'll see what kind of reaction we get. But overall, we're doing a great job. For others out there, we have Palantir. This is looking a lot more bullish to me. We're going to be looking for a target of about 80. As long as we do not lose 75, we favor 80 as our next potential target. For Rivian, we're in a very, very nice accumulation-like structure. We could be pushing higher. As long as we don't lose 12.6 and 12.3, we favor upside. And we could be looking for essentially 13.5 as our target. For SoFi, we're on a very, very nice range right over here, but I am a little bit concerned about it. There's a possible head and shoulders like structure. Notice we got this big dump down to 14.8, then we just got bought back up, so it's a good sign. So what's going to happen is we're going to likely test 16.2 going into tomorrow. And if we reject off that, we could be making a move back down towards the 15.5 area. If we hold above that, we're going to be looking for a bigger push. There's a left shoulder here, there's a head, and then there's a right shoulder here. I do want to call out the resistance that's kind of forming like this. So you could draw out a trend line just like this. So that's why I was saying we could be pushing closer to like 16.2 tomorrow, right up here. And we'll see if we get a rejection off that or not. So look for a push and possibly rejection. It's still looking like it's holding support, so we'll see how it goes. The Russell 2000 or IWM could be forming a flag. We're in a nice range right here, so you could draw out this range just like this, how we are holding the support. And then our resistance happens to be right up here. So as you can see, we have a nice range that's developing, and I think we just continue to respect this range as time goes on. So tomorrow, look for a push to about 240, a dip back down to 237. We're going to continue to do this until we get a breakout. We're otherwise just waiting to see if we get a breakout from this flag. So look at this range to hold. AMD looks a little bit more bearish. It might dip a little bit more to 136 before it tries to bounce back up to 140. So please keep that in mind. For ARM, we are looking a little bit more decent. We could try to push higher for 142.5 or above. If we lose 138 to 139, we could be dipping lower back down to this imbalance. But overall, this is looking a little bit more bullish for more upside. For coin, we look a little bit more bullish. We have a nice looking accumulation structure right here. This looks like it's going to be testing 350 tomorrow. If that breaks, we're looking for a bigger push for 360. So it's more bullish looking. We have a nice range right here. We're also holding our support very nicely. Look for a test of 350. We'll see if we break past that or not. For Amazon, the chart looks more bullish. We're making higher highs and higher lows, and there's no sign of rejection. If we lose 225, though, I could be looking for a retest of 222.5. But overall, it is more bullish. We have 227.5 as our potential resistance. And if that breaks, we could get very, very close to 228.5. So I think there's a nice uptrend on the 4 hour, and we could be looking for the 228 as our potential target. And Amazon's doing a great job. Amazon does look like it could be attempting to get to 228, and we'll have to see if we break or not. So give this the time it needs. For Meta is going to be on a very, very strong uptrend right here. However, there might be a small dip coming to retest the 620 area, which is where we broke out from. If we break past this and we bounce, there's going to be a bigger push. And if we lose this, we're looking for a dip back down towards um, the 610 area. So look for a test of about the 618 to 620 area. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. But then we'll give this the time it needs, at least as time goes on. So look for a dip and then we'll see. Microsoft is just trading sideways in this range, at least for the time being, going back and forth between this 444 zone. So 444 is resistance and 442 is our support, going back and forth and back and forth. But if we can't hold above 444, I think we could be dipping to 440 before it tries to bounce. That's where the breakout happened to be. And if we hold above that, we could push higher. As of right now, it looks like we're just going to do a back and forth for now. But there is a risk of a small dip closer to 440 if we don't get back above 444. Google is in a range right now. So one issue with Google is the fact that we had a high here. We came down. We could be making a lower high. So that generally could be, possibly causing some downside, at least for the share price. So we came up to about this 178 area. We came down. Then we made a lower high. So this may favor a move back down to like 175 to 174.4 before it tries to bounce again. Something like this could be happening where we kind of like dip right back down here, and then we try to bounce back up. But for now, this is like our range. So look for a move just like this on Google for now. If we end up losing 173.6, then I will be turning a little bit more bearish, and that could be dipping even lower. So just keep that in mind just before anything else. So I'll be watching this 175 area. We could be revisiting that. That's also going to align with our 20 EMA very nicely. And we'll see if we bounce off that or not. But I do favor downside a little bit more. For a couple, for a couple more, DJT is holding its 20 EMA. Generally, this does signify upside, so we'll have to see if we break past 135. If that's the case, we could push a little bit for 136, and we'll see if we reject after that or not. However, watch for this. Could we be trying to push? Or are we about to make a lower high? So if you take this low off our 20 EMA, if we push back up here towards like 136, do we break this higher? Do we make a lower high and then start like churning? I'll be watching to see which direction we move in. We did get a rejection off this 36 to 37 area. So we could attempt to push higher before it rejects. So give this the time it needs. For other factors out there, we also happen to have, let me just double check this. The VIX is on a bit of a downtrend here. If you look at the 4 hour, we're continuing to fall. The 4 hour does look weaker on the VIX. So this is still suggesting downside is more prominent. It's approaching the support. So if I go to, let me just double check the daily time frame on the VIX, you'll see that we have a very strong support close to this like 12.5 area. There's also support around 11.5. So those are two main levels. I think we could be approaching 12.4 to 12.5, so it might dip a little bit more. And we'll have to see if the VIX gets a bounce off that or not, because it is a strong support. For now, it does look weaker, which signifies the market could be going higher. So as of right now, the market still holds up very well. But just be a little bit careful with SPY despite that, because of the range that has been established. For others, we have the 10-year looking a little bit more bearish after Jerome Powell's interview. Could be coming down to fill this gap down here. Overall, it's not affecting the market as much. Same thing with the dollar. We possibly have a head and shoulders like structure, which could lead to some downside. If we don't hold above 105.97, there's going to be a risk of us coming down to 105 flat. So we'll give this the time it needs. Anyways, I appreciate you guys so much for listening. Please have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. I think that the market's making a very, very nice move. It is holding up well so far, but just know that for now, there's a range being established on SPY. We might see a small dip to about the 606 area tomorrow on SPY, but here's the big but. We'll have to see if we get a big bounce from there, because we're still holding above our 20 EMA very nicely. So we could get this little dip here and we'll see if we bounce off 606. If that's the case, we could remain either range bound or whichever direction we break in will determine a much bigger move. So if we end up losing 606, we dump a little bit more. And if we break past 609, we remain more bullish. Look for a dip in the morning and some consolidation. And we'll see if we lose the key support to dip even more. Otherwise, we're just going to be watching to see how it goes from here. Anyways, I thank you all so much for listening. Please have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.